Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
You don't like silence, do you?
Oh, I can sit in it and bask in it. No problem. You want to do it?
Okay. Nope. Not at all. Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to the Blazers Edge podcast. I am Tara Bowen-Biggs, joined as always by Blazers outsider Danny Meringue.
Oh, hi. How are you?
I am good. I have been out of town all weekend. Just got back from Seattle and ready to talk some Blazers because I went like 2 days and I had virtually no contact with what's been going on with the team. So I've been chomping at the bit to talk Blazer talk.
I've had 2 days off for the first time in God knows how long, like back-to-back days off. So
I love it when
wonderful.
the Blazers have 2 days off because I know that means one of those days was probably spent practicing.
Yeah, sure. I guess.
Do you think did they have practice today?
They probably had maybe a walkthrough, but they usually leave a day early for a trip.
Oh, that's right, because they are headed out on the road. So yeah, maybe they.
Yeah, if they did, they probably did a walkthrough or a little light scrimmage, something like that on Saturday or Sunday. But even then, I highly doubt it. Probably mostly film.
Well, in any case, it's nice that they may have gotten a little breather 2 days off in a row after the schedule that they have had. This week was a 4 games in 6-night affair. 2 on the road in Denver and Sacramento, 2 at home, Cleveland versus New Orleans. Denver and Sacramento both losses. Cleveland and New Orleans both wins. Now, of course, recency bias, I'm feeling great about the team right now, but let's back it up just a little bit. Talk about those games in Denver and Sacramento, just in terms of what did you see in those losses that, what did them in, I guess, is my question, in the Denver and Sacramento games?
Honestly, the Denver game was a coin toss, and then there's some crappy execution, particularly in the fourth quarter. And it wasn't just those. It wasn't even just those plays. Like there were plays early in the quarter where it was just not what we had come to see recently from the team, especially after 4 straight. I get that it was against lesser competition, with the exception of the Rockets and Thunder. But I thought that game was kind of a toss-up, and I think really it was decided early on by when Nurkic got in foul trouble. Beyond that, I think that's what it is. Sacramento game, I know a lot of people want to chalk it up to the Kings are better. It was a road back-to-back. Sacramento's not an easy team, blah, 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 blah. That fourth quarter was pretty crappy. The effort and the intensity, you could see it in Stotts as far as his post-game comments about how they just didn't play good to start the game, and they certainly didn't close the game well. I don't think you can – I don't know if there's any kind of coach speak that goes over it where you're like, oh, this, that. No, it was just bad. But in the grand scheme of things, it's 2 games. They follow that up by getting a win over the Cavs and the Pelicans, and I honestly think I'm going to call the Pelicans game the best win of the season so far.
I would not have an argument with that. With regards, just to back up for a sec, with regards to the Denver and Sacramento games, I thought we did see a few things that the Blazers can build on with that. One of the things about the Denver game is the Blazers hung in there with them. It was 113 to 116. And for as much talk as there's been around the league about Denver and, for them for a week or so, I guess they were holding down the number 1 spot until they got absolutely torn to shreds by the Golden State Warriors. But anyway, Denver is a good team. We've talked about this before. And the Blazers absolutely hung in there. And I think what happened was Nurkic got just too excited and too worked up, and which got him into early foul trouble. And if the next time they play each other, or when he plays, games that he's similarly potentially can get emotional about.
Amped up for.
Yeah, if he can just control that a little better. And I have no doubt, seeing the maturity that he's displayed all year, that he can learn from that and execute better the next time. He didn't have, the great week as far as scoring went, but he still was able to facilitate when he was able to stay on the floor.
Nurkic triple doubles.
Yeah, that was awesome. With regards to the Sacramento game, second night of a back-to-back, obviously, on the road, and against Sacramento, who is just so fast and so relentless when it comes to just being able to run and run and run and run. That's not an excuse, but that's
young.
An observation that it was. I really think it was that second quarter that did them in. That's the part that I had the biggest problem with. They were outscored 17-30 in the second quarter of Sacramento. If they just played a normal quarter, they scored 25 or whatever. They would have been okay. So that was the most disappointing thing to me. And that is, I don't know if they just let up or what they thought they were doing, but that was the most disappointing part to me.
Yeah. The way that both those games went, I don't want to take moral victories, but I think the Denver game was a coin toss game that maybe favored Denver. And that you had, when you look at the box score, you have Jokic have one of his best games as a pro. You have guys up and down the lineup for
one of his best. You thought that was one of? It wasn't that great. It was good.
It was a 40-point triple double, Tara.
Oh, Jokic. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Nurkic. Sorry. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, no, Jokic was...
I was like, he had 12 points. That's good.
No.
Yes, Jokic did have an exceptional game.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because poor Aminu had to move over and cover him most of the time.
Yeah, that was not really really fair for Aminu.
He and Turner worked their tails off.
And Jokic just torched him. That's what happens when you have a legit 7 foot. Think about over the last couple of weeks with what Nurkic has done when teams try to put a small guy on him.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it was. The same thing. Yeah, it was exactly the same thing. But you look at what Nurkic has done really over the last 10 games: 16 points, 11 rebounds. Tara, that sounds an awful lot like 17 and 11. Weird.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's getting to that level. That's consistent production. Against the Pelicans, he had 15 and 12. And the one thing that keeps popping up every night is damn near 5 assists. If he turns into 16, 11, 17, 11, and 5, that's foundational building block type stuff.
Yeah. I have no problem saying that he's able to maintain that he'll be able to do that. I don't know if he'll be able to finish out the year like that, but I completely can see that in his future. Sometimes when we, project how much we think players can do, it's a reach, but I don't feel like that's a reach. I feel like that's completely within.
Well, if we want to reach, let's reach on Jake Layman averaging 20 a quarter.
Yeah, let's. Okay, wait, let's talk I want to just make one observation about the Cleveland game, and then we will talk about what you just said was possibly one of their best wins of the year, the New Orleans game.
The Cleveland game was a blip on the radar. Come on now.
Okay, well, here's what I want to know about the Cleveland game. The talking point after the Cleveland game was it was possibly, because people weren't quite sure, the lowest number of turnovers in a game. Does that tell us anything? Can the Blazers really walk away?
Well,
because they only committed 4, but Cleveland only committed 3.
Here's the other thing: the Blazers also only committed 6 against the Pelicans. They are definitely trying to minimize those turnovers. One of the things that hasn't happened a lot lately, and I know you know where I'm going to go with this. Bounce passes in traffic to 7-footers.
They've been doing that as much as they've ever done.
It has dropped off drastically. The pick and roll dive down the middle with the bounce pass through traffic has not been there as much over the last week.
Oh, okay. I will have to trust you on that because every time I see one, I giggle inside, and I don't really think that I've giggled any less than usual, but if you've got metrics to
it's not bounce passes. And here's the thing: I've seen a few people on Twitter who are like, "Oh, Danny's mad about a bounce pass again." It's like, no, it was never, and you know this. It was never
it's splitting the defense.
Yes,
the defender bounce passes.
It's the splitting the defender to the 7-footer on the move. Like, and I don't mind it at all if it's a good pass, great pass, perfect pass. What I mind is when it's like thrown at his ankles. If you've got Myers or Nurkic or Zach rolling down the middle uncontested, or you've got a path to them and you decide, well, you know what? I really like bounce passes. Let me put it on the ground. No, throw it up in the damn air.
Okay, so you're thank you for clarifying that. So you're not complaining about when Nurkic bounces it through to Jake
God,
Layman,
no.
who's cutting in between defenders. It's when Damian Lillard bounces
CJ,
it down
ET,
to Nurkic.
Seth, anybody who throws a bounce pass to a 7-footer at their ankles. That's asking one of those guys to bend over at the waist on the move is just a jerk. Like, do you not realize how big these guys are? Like, for what they're able to do to catch on the move at that size with the ball basically down at their ankles and knees and still gather it with elite athletes slapping, reaching, bumping, knocking those guys around. The fact that they're even able to get their hands on it and corral it is impressive, let alone when Nurkic grabs it and then like switches hand and scoops at the rim. It's like, oh, okay. You know what would have been a whole hell of a lot easier? Tossing that over the top so somebody could go dunk it. And we've seen that more and more recently with Myers. So thank you, Evan, because I feel like Evan is like channeling my inner rage on this one particular soft spot.
Well, thank you for clarifying that it was the big man's. I have a better understanding of that.
You know, Nurkic throwing a backdoor bounce pass at Jake Layman for a dunk. Yeah, no, just sign me up for that. Put it in my veins. All the good stuff. I have no problem with that.
I will challenge the notion that, okay, I could see logically why it is harder for 7-footers to bend down and corral the ball when it's down low around their ankles or calves. However, I would just point out that when I close my eyes, I can picture many, many ways, many, many times seeing Jusuf Nurkic catch the ball, reach it way out and go all the way down to he likes to do those kinds of ballet moves with the ball where he's moving it out, he's bending it down. He's like going way down to the ground with his rebounds when he catches them. He likes to play with a little dramatic flair. So I think bending over at the waist isn't as
the success
much
rate isn't there.
A stretch for him.
The success rate isn't there. It's not.
Okay, well I'm gonna watch for the bounce passes to the big men because I just enjoy the bounce passes. I think those are a blast, and I giggle every time I see them.
Fair enough.
Okay. So, but with regards to turnovers, that's an interesting observation. I mean, I know they had like a heck of a lot of turnovers in either one of those Denver or Sacramento games, but they cleaned it up more later. Now let's move on to New Orleans. The turtle explosion in the second quarter.
We gotta work on that.
I have to tell you, I was in a bar in Seattle, trapped in this conversation with someone that I did not initiate and I could not get out of it. And like, I kept getting like little notifications popping on my phone and it was killing me. I've never.
Jake Layman is burning the world and you're sitting there stuck in a conversation.
That I was missing it. But do tell, give me a little of oral history of the second quarter in New Orleans. Or against New Orleans.
Joe and Shane were out, and we had Dane, Alex, and Chris on in the post game. So there's 4 of us in the control room, plus our producers and our technical staff. And so we had a pretty full room, the control room. And Jake hits the pull up dribble or the dribble pull up the mid range like he's Russell Westbrook, and I'm like, that was nasty, and that's Jake creating on his own. Of course, I had to throw a little side-eyed shade in it and be like, when was the last time Mo Harkless did that? You know, because Alex loves her some Harkless. And then it kind of just kept going. It was the one dribble step back to the left fadeaway 3. Then it was the backdoor lob and dunk, and then it was the backdoor cut. And it's like, good God, that's 8 straight. What's going on here? And then it was a 3. And then it was a 3 again. And then it was a 3 again. It was just like, oh my, we were jumping up, high-fiving, faces are melting, somebody pulled the fire alarm. It was absolute pandemonium in the control room, so I can only imagine what it was in the Moda Center. I mean, when he pulled up for the 3 and was with all the confidence in the world to bang that next 3, I think it was his 3rd. I can't remember if he hit 2 in a row and missed one, or if he hit 3 in a row and missed one. But he went to go pull one in AD's eye, And when it left his hand, it looked pure, and it just caught the back of the rim. Had that one gone, I'm fairly certain that was like the first sign of the apocalypse. Like it was absolute insanity. He was unstoppable. He was heat checking and hitting. And the thing is that this may be a surprise to probably damn near everybody outside of the Blazers organization. But Damian Lillard has said it before in practice that this dude is, when he gets hot in practice, he's unstoppable. And you can see it because the way he moves is very difficult to cover. And when he has his confidence, like really just kind of lighten it up, he's got a quick release. It's nice. It's compact. It's consistent. It's one of those things where you can easily see how simple it is for him to just kind of get hot and get going. And then the Blazers did an excellent job of just riding him. And this is the third time he's done this season, right? Where he's had like 15 or more in the quarter.
Yeah, in a very short period.
And the Blazers have done a very, very good job of when he gets this hot, they just get him the ball and get out of the way. Like they just let him run off a screen, catch and shoot, and it's pure. And I think that's something that not just in that moment and like how fun it was for them and for us to just kind of take it all in. I think this is more who Jake Layman is going to become, and not a 20-point and a quarter guy, but a guy who can easily take over a quarter, but also be a consistent threat with utilizing one skill. Just running his ass off the entire game. In that period, he got more shots and ran harder than I probably have ever seen him.
He looked so tired. I rewatched the quarter the next morning, and he looked so tired at the end. He was panting, just like he was. But it must have been so thrilling in the arena. I had texts from 5 different friends who were in the arena at the time, just going, "Oh my God, I can't believe Jake Layman right now." And it sounds like it was great. And like I've been watching Jake a lot the last couple of weeks just because I enjoy watching him ever since he got back into the rotation, since Mo Harkless has, been back.
In and out.
The in and out, yeah. But then he finally got it back into the rotation maybe 5 or 6 games ago. And I've been watching, and he's just plain fun to watch. And when he gets it going, he smiles and he yells and he gets the
He's
crowd.
A cocky
his arms
SOB. I mean, you don't expect it, right? He's been so deep on the bench.
Jake Layman, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, no, he's got some tiger in him. It's fun to see. Like when he dunks now, there's a little bit of nasty behind it. Hell, there was one time in that scoring spurt where he took it hard to the rim and looked like he was going to curl back and yam it. And instead, he just like Iceman Gervin, just turned it over with his softest, sweetest finger roll. And it was like, okay, who is this guy and what have you done with Jake Layman? Because he's creating off the bounce, attacking the rim, creating off the bounce in the mid-range, coming off every screen known to man for 3. He's scoring at all levels, Tara. That's wild.
He's scoring in different ways. Like you were talking about that pull-up that he had. That was like, where does that? Because usually he's catching it and shooting it, and
not attacking off the dribble off for himself. Like I don't know if I can't remember if we talked about this the last time we recorded, but they've run post-up plays for Jake Layman. Typically, they run him off some sort of screen if they're going to run him off something early in the game. But they've been running post-up action, and that's weird.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. If Jake is at the 3, Jake's damn near 6'10". I think that gets lost on some people. Like Jake is stupid big. And
tall.
Yes,
he's not
tall.
Thick.
No, but he's not Nick Batum skinny either.
He's put on quite a lot of weight.
He has filled out since he came up from Maryland. But I don't want to go too crazy with the Jake Layman praise, but it was a hell of a lot of fun. I was a little disappointed that it took so long to get him back in the second half. Went almost 9 minutes before he got in the game. Wasn't able to really get anything going after that. But I will.
The Blazers put it away. And wait, let's mention the fact that Anthony Davis was there. And I know that he went out late with an injury, but he was there.
Yes, and then they did a great job maintaining him.
Played the Pelicans.
And here's the crazy thing: up until the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, the Pelicans were shooting over 50% from the field. I think like 90% from the line. They were just struggling a little bit from three, and then I think they missed like their last like 5 threes. But if you had looked at the box score, you'd be like, how is this a ball game? But then you look down and you see that the Blazers have taken basically 20 more shots than the Pelicans. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's why. Because when you've got guys like Nurkic pulling down 5 offensive rebounds, Dame with 3, CJ with 2, Mo with 2, Evan with 2, I mean, they just crushed the backboard. And then you only turn the ball over 6 times, and you look at the box score, and you've got 2, 4, 6 guys in double figures, 3 guys with 20 apiece. You shoot, you hit 11 threes, you shoot 47% from the floor. You keep AD in check.
Yeah, none of that is bad.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like they did well, but
right. So let me ask this. So, what we saw in the playoffs was a team that was continually blitzing and double teaming. When teams move faster, does that make double teaming harder?
Yes. Anytime your opponent is forcing you to take the ball out of the basket and play in the half court offense, it's easier to set up against. The other part of that is the Blazers did a very, very good job of doing what they've been doing the last couple of weeks, which is running the offense through Jusuf Nurkic. Mm-hmm. Damian Lillard had an okay game. He was 6 of 11 on non-threes because he was 2 of 9 from 3. So that was really only blemish on his record because he had 8 assists, 2 turnovers, 24 points, 5 rebounds. Good, solid game. But they did a really good job of changing the point of attack. Dame had 8 assists. Jusuf had 5 assists. ET had 5 assists. They were running
around in all the different.
Yeah,
they had to cover so much because the Blazers were attacking from so many different directions.
Zach had 4 assists.
Well, I don't think the Blazers have to worry too much about seeing the Pelicans in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to shave my head now. This is.
You're just making all kinds of bets.
I am.
You might want to just dial back the betting because I believe there's gonna be a lot of paydays coming up for you.
Degenerate gambler Dan Meringue.
Yeah, I hope you'll learn your lesson at some point. Well, let's move on and talk about something that a lot of people have been talking about, and I've been wondering what your thoughts are, and that is the trade proposal that was in, was that The Ringer?
Yeah, it's from Jonathan Sharks.
From Jonathan Sharks. This is basically the CJ for Aaron Gordon trade, which probably people might be a little bit tired about because honestly, it's been on everybody's mind and everybody's had an opinion. But what I wanted to ask you about it, and this is just the proposal of like straight up, at least for right now, like straight up CJ for Aaron Gordon. Tell me about the pros and cons in your eyes. And I know that you've been talking about, CJ as a potential trade candidate for years. And, you've even brought up Aaron Gordon in that discussion. So walk me through pros and cons of this trade. Actually, you know what? Let me give you my pros and cons for this trade, and then
Then I will tear them to shreds. No.
What?
I said, then I will tear them to shreds. No, I'm kidding. Because I honestly, I
love you too, Dan.
I know there's a million ways you can go with this trade. So I understand people are like, well, okay. But I think the trades that are like this, where there are varied viewpoints, those are the best trades.
Well, and they're probably, I don't know if they're the least likely to happen or the most likely to happen. Because I think the thing about it is, like you said, like the ones that have the most, like that are the hardest to figure out in terms of who wins.
They make the most sense value-wise for each team.
Yeah, they probably are the best. Yeah. But anyway, for me, the pros for Portland in trading CJ McCollum for Aaron Gordon is with Aaron Gordon, the Blazers get youth because he's only, 23? Mm-hmm. They get length. He's obviously taller than CJ. And they get, having said that they did something, because there's a lot of people out there in the fan base just agitating for the Blazers to just do something. So youth, length, and something. And then the other thing that I didn't realize until I went and looked at Aaron Gordon's contract, which I thought was really intriguing, is it's really team friendly.
Yeah, you found the good stuff.
It goes down every year. So it's 21 million, then it goes down to 19 and then 18. And then the final year, it's 16 and a half. It's not even 16 and a half. It's just shy of that.
It's an awful party contract.
So that is, I was really surprised when I saw that. So those are some pros if Portland was to, say yes to this. cons for Portland. The biggest con that I could see, and it's a philosophical one, and that's if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, are the Blazers really truly broken, or is this something that is being done because of the need to do something? I don't know the answer to that, and I think you could probably argue both sides of the equation. But I think in some ways, it's not like the Blazers are, in 12th place and are terrible and need to get fixed. They've shown a lot of things this year. So that's kind of a big con for Portland, is I worry about a team, and I think we talked about this last week, that their identity is so wrapped up in their continuity and their chemistry. Making a big move like this is really, really risky. The other thing that I worry about is the secondary part of the article, which was, if Blazers, if there maybe have to be other players involved, and if the Blazers can't get a shooting guard back, who takes that spot? I don't know who would be the best in that position. And then there's just kind of like a third thing, and that is like kind of what happens to Zach Collins in this, and maybe he's one of the players that goes out. I don't know. So those are the biggest cons that I can see from Portland's point of view. Okay.
Well, I'll go from back to front here. So as far as the shooting guard is involved, Terrence Ross probably has to be in the deal anyways, just to make money work out, and for Portland to be satisfied with any kind of deal like this. So I think that solves that problem. And while Terrence Ross isn't
well, that's assuming an awful lot.
No, I believe that's a pretty fair assumption with how the talent and what the expectation is for both teams coming out of the trade.
But what if they don't?
Well, we're not.
Does Nick Stauskas play shooting guard?
No. That's what I mean. It's not worth addressing if that's not the case. I mean, that's the reality of how that deal has to kind of go down. In the pecking order of NBA players right now.
So the Blazers say no if they can't get Terrence Ross.
Yeah, because they need that additional playmaking, play finishing body. That's a little bit more consistent. But as far as how things work financially, this is wonderful. And there's a couple different things that I would entertain in this fashion. CJ's deal goes up. Aaron Gordon's deal goes down. Aaron is younger and the deal is front loaded. CJ is older and the deal is back loaded. So from on that perspective alone and what that means for Portland, that's huge. Having a player basically going into his prime years on a front loaded contract means you could be getting. Think of somebody like Tobias Harris. I mean, I'm not saying that Aaron Gordon is Tobias, but I think he's that same kind of tier, that same kind of player where here in the next year or two, if it does come together, like fully comes together, because he's gotten just a little bit better every year. But if it does come together for him, now you've got a guy who is very good on a team-friendly deal. When was the last time the Blazers have had that? And those guys are the most valuable guys in the league. When you get a Steph Curry on a dumb, cheap deal because his ankles are made of glass, or you get a Klay Thompson on a great deal because he hasn't blown up yet. Like, that's what allowed the Warriors to make those moves, to be able to have the cap space to bring in a Kevin Durant, right? So if the Blazers get a guy in Aaron Gordon, who right now I think is playing probably at his value, and now his contract is going down and his talent is going up, now he's outperforming it, that's massive. And then from the basketball side of things, what's the one thing that I've said about this team, Tara? The team needs to get bigger, longer, stronger, faster, more athletic. Aaron Gordon ticks every single one of those boxes. And he's younger.
So if this happens, if this were to happen, then what would you expect for the remainder of the season?
I still think they're a playoff team. I think, 20-point scores.
You don't think it messes up their chemistry enough to knock them out of the?
No, I think Terrence Ross is going to be a guy who's probably safe to give you 14 to 15 a night, and Aaron Gordon's a guy who is going to give you, I think in Portland, with the kind of green light he would have here and the lack of dysfunction, since, it's not Orlando.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see his 16 points a game get closer to 18 or 19, possibly approach 20.
Wow. So even in the incredibly tight Western Conference playoff race, where losing a couple of games could have you out completely, you think it's worth it because it's building towards the future?
I think it's better for the here and now and for the future. I think they're a better, more balanced team with Aaron Gordon and Terrence Ross this season than they are with CJ and Mo. That's the way I feel about it. I'm
just so shy about these things, having lived through the Aaron Aflalo trade.
Yeah, but
how is this different than that?
Because you were trading the end of bench guys. Like, I mean, realistically...
Okay, so Will Barton wasn't Will Barton.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And granted, I didn't like that deal then, but I didn't think that was the deal that needed to be done. I wasn't looking at the roster and going, there's a severe roster imbalance here. That team had a true 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, there was a no-doubt pecking order with 4, sometimes 5 guys on the floor who could shoot. And they were a bigger, stronger, longer, more athletic team.
So you think it's less risky to give up the person who's been the Blazers' second most important player for the last couple of years?
Not necessarily less risky. I just don't think it's as risky as people are making it out to be.
And you think the reward is tremendous?
Not quite tremendous, but I think they're...
What? Dan, I set you up for hyperbole,
I know.
And that's the one time I've ever had you not take it.
No. Here's the thing. I found a tweet that I made, I think at the beginning of 2017, where if anybody's ever heard me talk about trading CJ, it's always been for a up-and-coming guy. So before Chris Middleton was really Chris Middleton, before Oladipo made this leap, before Tobias Harris made this leap, because I knew that value-wise, CJ was perceived one way and these guys were perceived another. And so when I see Aaron Gordon's the only guy in the league right now who I'm like, yeah, that's the guy who can make that next step one more time.
His stock's going to keep rising.
Exactly. The other one is Jaylen Brown. And I'm not quite as high on Jaylen Brown and I don't want to deal with the Celtics. It feels like those guys win every damn trade. But when I look at Aaron Gordon, I see a 23-year-old kid who his three-point percentage has increased every year. He's a mismatch nearly by everyone. I mean, who in the league can stay with him? Physically, you're talking about like the top 1% of the league kind of guys, the Paul Georges, the LeBrons, the Giannis's. He's a 6'9" wrecking crew who can attack any mismatch. And again, what's the other thing that I always say, Tara? We have siloed players, right? So,
well, we just talked about Jake being able to do one thing and do one thing really well was an advantage.
No. That's him being better than anybody else, basically, in the league in that category. I mean, as far as like running the floor, he's as crazy as it sounds. You want me to go hyperbole? I would put Jake as one of the top 5 guys in the league when it comes to just running, just effective running on offense. Knowing when, where, how.
Wow.
That's
something that we don't have time to explore right now, but I certainly want to explore that.
It's an instinctual thing that some guys just have. They just have this innate ability to just find those places in the right place at the right time. And it's very, very, very few guys in the league have it. I think it's incredibly valuable.
I don't want to argue about that. I just think that's really... I want to see it quantified first before there's your next column.
Yeah.
Because I would be delighted for that to be true. Well, anyway, and I don't want to talk too much longer on the CJ for Aaron Gordon thing because I think a lot of people have talked about it. But it sounds like you are like totally ready to go on this. If this was to happen, you would be absolutely.
I think it's the right move. It's the first step in remaking the team.
what's the advantage to the Magic is that they now have somebody who can actually truly be a leader for that team.
Yeah, you have a no doubt number one, and you have to clear a logjam.
Need more than just that though?
No,
or is that enough?
They need a premier scorer, they need a premier ball handler, and a playmaker. Like DJ Augustine has been their point guard. Shelvin Mack led them in assists last year with 2.2 or something like that. That they need to clear. They need to clear up the logjam in the front court. They've drafted Jonathan Isaac and Mo Bamba. They just have too many big bodies in there, and they need one less in there if they're going to try to develop those guys.
Well, it is Orlando, one of Portland's favorite trading partners.
Yeah, and they can send Mo back to Orlando.
Right. Well, it's an interesting thought experiment. Do you have any, percentage that you think this might possibly happen?
Neil's not trading CJ.
Yeah.
That's
0.
Yeah, that's the thing is I think I've finally come around to the fact that no matter what, and barring unbelievable disaster, that CJ is going to finish his contract in Portland.
So, have you heard any other rumors out there?
I've talked to
that you can share.
Few executives around the league, and I've heard Aminu's name. Windhorse said that there were the deals mentioning Aminu's name, and as well as Myers Leonard. I haven't heard any referencing Myers. I've heard Mo quite a few times recently. I've got
so nothing substantial.
No,
there,
and this thing, but I've heard that Portland is more active than in times in the past. So I think that's something to look forward to if you're hoping for change. The other part of it is simply, I have made another bet. So I made a bet with Casey Holdahl of the Trailblazers.
I'm glad you're not betting money, are you?
No. This was Casey's suggestion that the loser has to go on their podcast and talk about how great the other is for 5 minutes, and also the loser has to sing the praises of the other with the first tweet of the day on Twitter for a week. So, but the bet is, will the Blazers be under the luxury tax threshold at the end of the deadline? And I'm still going with yes, because I've got a decade worth of history. In the existence of the luxury tax, the Blazers have paid it 3 times. Mm-hmm. Tres. I'm just
right. So,
and those times were after serious financial malfeasance.
Right. Well, and you could say it another way. You could say the Blazers have played it 3 times in the last 10 years, so they're not afraid to.
No. That's in the existence of the luxury tax. They've paid it 3 times.
Okay. How many years is that?
Almost 20.
Okay.
So, and they haven't paid it in over 10 years.
Okay. Oh, I haven't paid it in over 10 years. Okay.
That's what I mean.
But they have paid it.
Yeah, sure. They've paid it.
So, under what conditions now is Casey coming on our podcast to sing your praises?
No. He will be saying it on the Rip City report.
Oh, he'll be singing your praises on the Rip City report if you win.
Yes.
And you'll be singing his praises on our podcast.
Yes. Cross podcast betting is the new prop bet.
Casey does a great job, so that's not going to be that hard. I'll write your talking points for you if you need.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll see. It's getting closer early. I like these early deadlines. It's going to make it interesting. We got Blazers have a weird schedule where after this week, when they play 4 games, then they have a week where they only play 1 game in an entire week.
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
It's extremely strange. That game on at home against Utah on the 30th is the only game in 7, 8, 9, 10 days.
Good.
Very strange.
God, that's weird.
But that game, the February trade deadline, that's all leading up to All-Star break, of course. And this is Sunday we're recording this, and Monday the 21st, I believe, is the last day to vote for Damian Lillard for All-Star. Have you voted yet today?
Yes, I actually did, as we were talking earlier.
Okay, very good, very good. It's not looking great for our guy.
Well, no, it's looking great for him to make the All-Star team, but not to start.
It's not looking great for him to be voted in, which was what my lofty goal was for him.
No, and he's about where I figured he'd be, but the names in front of him are a little bit weird.
Yeah, Derrick Rose, don't understand.
That one's ridiculous.
I can understand. I can pretty much understand the other guys.
Steph,
and,
Harden,
to be honest,
Russ.
Damian hasn't been, averaging 50 points over 3 games or whatever James Harden
What he is doing right now is ridiculous, Tara. I don't enjoy watching him that much, but boy, is he just unreal right now.
Right. So Damian is not doing that right now. Damian is, with his quiet dignity and grace, holding this team together, holding them up and leading them to all be better than they are. And apparently that is just not what other people around the country and around the world see in terms of voting for their starting all-stars. But then, of course, the media gets some of the vote and the players get some of the vote. That should be fun next week when all of those votes come out.
We've seen
get to hear
a couple already. I've seen a couple national writers and local beat writers that have Dame on their ballot.
Yeah, Arnowitz and Zach Lowe both had Damian Lillard, and they had Damian Lillard as locks on there.
Yeah, and Jabari had Dame on his ballot too. Steph missed a bunch of games, and then he's been dumb since he came back.
What? What do you mean he's been dumb, Steph?
Unbelievably good.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, Steph's been great, because dumb is not a very good descriptor.
No, he's been dumb good. Like
he's been extremely good, and they finally decided to give him the ball.
Yeah, which that's the thing is they had the minutes stagger because of some injuries. Over the last 10 games, I think he's averaging something like 12 threes a game, where he's shooting 47% or something. It's absurd. Like he's just crushing everything. Like he's shooting 50. 48, 90, something like that. It's
so who, if you had a vote, who would be on your ballot for the West? Okay,
so as much as this pains me, Harden is my number one out of the West right now. He has been unbelievable. I want to give it to Dame, but like I said, Steph.
You can. It's totally within your power. It's your vote, Dan.
Steph has been dumb.
Look deep into yourself, Dan.
But I'm going to go full homer, and I'm going to give it to Dame, because he has done
good job
more for this team this year than at any point in time. I think he has truly found the way to be the no doubt, unquestioned, not just leader of the team basketball wise, but just the heart and soul and knowing when and where and how to get guys going. And
right, in terms of the basketball, he's always been a good emotional, spiritual, community leader, but he's taken it to another level in terms of involving the guys on the court.
Yeah, and this is kind of weird to say probably, but him kind of deferring his shots to get other guys going to start games is that's a big deal. In the NBA, for him to basically switch off for the first half as far as scoring goes and be dedicated to getting everybody else going, that says a lot about his character, because there's a lot of guys in the league that are not foregoing shots, no matter what.
Yeah, what you're talking about is all those first halves where he has 6 or 7 points.
And 6 or 7 assists.
6, 7 points. Yeah.
And he's just getting guys going. And I think that's been really the key to Portland moving up the standings again after having that unbelievably just brutal period. It's been Dame's playmaking and on-court quarterbacking and the offense running through Jusuf Nurkic. I think those are the two biggest reasons for their effectiveness increasing.
Okay, but we're talking about your ballot for the West.
Yes.
Who else is on it? You got 3 back or front court players to choose.
So I'm going to go with AD, and I'm going to go with Jokic, and then I'm going to go full fan guy, and I'm going to go Luka. Paul George.
Oh.
Paul George probably deserves it because he's been probably the best two-way player in the league outside of Giannis. But
you're leaving Kevin Durant off.
I'm leaving KD off. Screw that snake.
Okay, I have a harder question for you.
Okay.
Who are your Eastern Conference?
That one's easy for me. I'm going Kyrie, Simmons. I want to give it to Kemba because he's Charlotte guy in Charlotte. But Kyrie and Simmons have come on lately in the last month and been insane. And then the front court's easy for me. Giannis, Kawhi, Joel. I mean, that's scary. Like those 3 guys in the front court are.
Did you want to know who
terrifying.
I would put on my ballot?
Yes.
Thanks for asking.
Well, I was
in the
going
West
there.
Damian Lillard, Steph Curry.
Taking Steph over Harden, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really fundamentally have a problem with Harden, but that's like for another time. But in this case, Steph, because I want Steph to have all of the recognition that he should be getting that he's not because of Kevin Durant. However, I also put Kevin Durant because I think he's really good and he probably should be on there. And then Jokic, you'd be proud of me.
Well done.
That I chose Jokic and Anthony Davis. So we're the same except for Kevin Durant. I chose Kevin Durant.
I went Luka just because the fun factor. Like,
no, I like that. That's fun. That I like that better. If I hadn't already mailed in my ballot, I would maybe change it. And then in the East, we're almost the same. I had Giannis, Embiid, and I had a hard time with I was like, I know he's really good, but I couldn't figure out anybody else to put in there. Giannis, Embiid, and Kawhi. And then for my guards, I had Kyrie and Bradley Beal.
Okay, I can see Beal. Real deal Beal has been great. Sans John Wall, he's been phenomenal. Weird how that happens.
Yeah, he's been outstanding, and I think I would love to see him get recognition. Anybody for the contest, slam dunk, 3-point,
Listen,
anything?
If we're not getting Seth and Steph, getting Seth and Steph in the 3-point contest, and then since the All-Star games in North Carolina, can we just go grab Zion for the weekend and put him in the dunk contest? That's really all I want to see. I want to see the 6'7", 285-pound 18-year-old out jump and out dunk everybody in the world.
Because he's not even going to think about it. He's just going to do something that whatever he thinks of in the moment.
It will be.
I think they should go back to doing it that way, like they used to. I just watched the ESPN, The Beautiful Game or whatever the series, that 20-hour miniseries that they did about basketball. And I watched the one about the first slam dunk contest in the ABA. And it was so funny because nobody knew what to do because nobody told them what to do. And they just kind of handed him a couple of balls. And he was like, okay, I'll dunk them both.
Figure it out. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think they should go back to that. No preparation, no props, just do something.
Yeah, and Zion has just been, the man 360 windmilled in a game. Just... They did the measurements on him, basically since the combine records have been kept, which is I think since 2000. Nobody his size has ever recorded anything close to his vertical. Nobody his size has had anywhere close to his bench reps. Physical profile wise, nobody in the NBA in the modern era has ever existed like him. Literally the only person who's even remotely close is LeBron James, and he now is as big as LeBron. Peak LeBron was.
Now.
For all this, LeBron weighs 240. No, he doesn't, kids. LeBron's 275 to 290 at times. If you go back and look at his Miami days, that's as close to Zion as we've ever seen in the NBA. And so, that would...
Okay, we gotta wrap this up, and Zion is not in the league
I don't
yet.
care. We're going to talk Zion all the time. This is the All Zion podcast now. Did you not know?
Okay.
I updated it.
You can do that on your other podcast. You could do that on your show. You have a whole show that you could go and just talk about.
We
do
that from time to time.
And Joe would love to talk about it. One of these nights when, on the second night of a back-to-back, when there's just, when the Blazers are just, dead tired and you have something, you could have a whole Zion segment.
Oh, you mean on Tuesday night?
Yeah. So the Blazers, they go on the road. They got a 3-game road trip. They haven't been on the road for that long in a while. Utah, OKC, and Phoenix. Utah, OKC back-to-back, and then they play Phoenix, and they finish out the week in Atlanta. That Utah-Oklahoma City is going to be real tough. What are you going to be watching for in those games?
Can they compete with Utah? Utah has beat the crap out of them in both matchups. Yeah, they haven't even been close.
And it's crazy because Utah has had a rough time this year, but not with Portland.
Well, yes, and over the last, probably 15 games, 15 to 20, Utah has kind of figured it out. Donovan Mitchell has gotten better.
He's returned to form.
Yeah, he's had a couple games where you're just like, that guy, gotcha.
Was that a game or is Utah a team that Nurkic found himself in early foul trouble against?
No, I think that was a game.
What was the problem with like the Christmas Day game?
So the Christmas Day game, I think, was kind of like one of those one-off games where Portland I think they got a little too cute and they went away from Nurkic and they never could really get back to it. But I mean, you look at what the Jazz have done over the last 15. They're 11-4. So guess what? They're getting good again. And Donovan Mitchell has been the key to that. He's averaging 23 a game, shooting 45, 38, 80.
I'd just really like to see Portland beat Oklahoma City, though.
I think that's the more important one, right?
Yeah. They got Utah one again at the end of the month.
And that'll be game number 4, so they'll be done with them. For tie-breaking purposes, you want to beat Utah, and you want to show you can win in Utah on the road.
Yeah.
That and, you know, you want to have those head-to-head wins to kind of get you one game up and put them one game down.
I wanted Nurkic to see some success against these elite centers.
And he has against Adams, just not against Gobert yet.
Yeah, but they lost the last time they played Oklahoma City at the beginning of the month.
Yeah, here's the thing, is that OKC game, their Blazers are going to be coming off a back-to-back, and they're probably going to get into OKC at like 3 o'clock in the morning on a back-to-back playing a tough game. So you're calling that one a schedule?
Yeah,
unless that Utah game is over early either way, and the Blazers can get a few guys some less minutes than normal, which I just don't see happening either way. I mean, do you see a blowout for Portland or Utah in that game?
No, I don't see a blowout, but, and this is only like a minuscule change, but I have seen the Blazers very, very, very slowly give incrementally more minutes to Zach Collins alongside Jusuf Nurkic. So I'm wondering if maybe we'll see an extra minute of Zach Collins alongside. I would really like to see how he does against these elite centers alongside Jusuf Nurkic. So it may be even an experimental thing. Like, let's see how this looks, because I really think that they're trying to figure out how ready Zach Collins is to play the 4 alongside Nurkic. If you're serious on what everybody's saying about getting rid of Amino, they're going to need somebody to get in there and play the 4 alongside Nurkic. And I think they're bringing Collins in a little bit here and a little bit there. And those 2 games would be an excellent barometer for what would happen if they made a trade where Aminu left.
Yeah, and I think in those instances, you kind of have to be prepared. And that is something that has popped up over the last 2 weeks after basically having no minutes alongside Nurkic. He's getting a couple a night. And, and from the outside looking in, it looks an awful lot like an audition. I mean, is that what, when you see it, is that what you see?
Yeah, that's what I wrote about in Mom's Favorite today. So I'm curious. So, and then Phoenix and Atlanta. So the Blazers, those are teams like Phoenix just took Oklahoma City tonight to the very end of the game and lost by 2. Atlanta has been playing well in fits and starts. So neither of those games are gimmies. So Blazers are back to having a pretty tough schedule here, and they have 4 games in 6 nights before they get their strangely weird break.
Yeah, that break, every time I look at it, I'm always like, what happened here?
I don't know. We'll have to come up with other things to talk about. Maybe we can have a Zion segment next week, because we only have one game to talk. Well, I only have one game to talk about, so we'll give you your Zion 2 minutes.
It's almost time to start looking at the draft, Tara.
I think we have other things to talk about.
You sound like Casey Holdahl there. You had a little bit of a Casey laugh. Did you catch the laugh that Casey had?
The laugh that Casey had?
Yes, it was all over the radio. So Casey's been sitting in with Travis Demers on the road. And the laugh that Casey Holdahl had in a game, I believe it was... Was it like
Kawhi Leonard type laugh?
Yeah, it was the exact example that they compared it to on the radio was Woody Woodpecker.
Okay.
He just turned the ball over, finished. He was that one play where Evan looked like he was going to finger roll, and he kind of half turned it into a dunk. I don't know if you remember. It was really awkward, but also kind of nice looking. But Travis said something about, well, no, he dunks it. And Casey just kind of comes out of nowhere. And they have remixed that laugh about 18 different ways and basically made it the outro on the radio now. So
Oh.
No, it's perfect. When you're on enough.
I'm just not quite sure how we got on this topic.
You had
from Zion Williamson.
You had a laugh there that was a little reminiscent.
Oh.
So.
Yes, we'll have to have a support club for people that have weird laughs.
Hey, I have all of the laughs.
Me and Casey.
No.
And we'll get Kawhi.
You kidding me?
And we'll all sit down together.
I sound like when I laugh sometimes. It sounds like you're letting the air out of a balloon. So I have no place to laugh. But when you're on enough, you just got to live with those moments and embrace them.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up.
There's a blood moon outside that we need to go see, apparently.
Right. I thought there was an eclipse going on too, but it's cloudy, so I can't see anything. That's what I was doing like right before you called. So anyway, this week I just have my mom's favorite column out. We're going to have a What podcast coming out later this week. If you want to follow me I am on Twitter at TCBBiggs. That's also my Instagram and like every other account that I have. If anybody wants to try to find me on other channels, at TCBBiggs. And let's see, our next Women's Hoops and Talks meetup is going to be on February 10th against Dallas. That's a noon game. We'll be at the McMenamins on Broadway, and we'd love to see all the women we know who love basketball to come out and join us and cheer on the Blazers. Dan, why don't you take us out of here? Oh, we got to don't forget to mention Blazers Edge Night.
I was just going to say, Blazers Edge Night against the Brooklyn Nets. It's coming up. It's actually much closer than you think, and we're kind of getting down to the home stretch here as far as donations. Hey, look, it's Jared Bayless playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's weird. Sorry, it's on the TV behind me. If you have the ability to donate, please do. If you go to the Blazers Ticketmaster site, use code Blazers Edge on checkout. You can pick up tickets for as low as, I believe, $9, $9 or $10. $10. Okay, so the other ones may be all gone, or they didn't have that section this year. I can't remember what it was. Either way, please help. It's one of the absolute coolest things in the world. I've got the pre and post game show for Blazers Outsiders, but I'm trying to work a way that I can be there and participate in the event at the same time, because it's absolutely unequivocally one of the coolest things that we get to do every single year. When you see these kids get into the arena for the first time, and maybe the only time they ever have that opportunity, it is like a kid on Christmas just cranked up to 11. And $10 allows you to help somebody do that. And it's absolutely 100% worth it. Beyond that, you can find Joe, Shane, and I on Blazers Outsiders before and after every game on NBC Sports Northwest. You can find me on social media at DMarang, at DMARANG for everything. Insta, IG, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is you want to do. I don't know. Burn Facebook. I don't care at this point in time. Like, subscribe.
Gracious.
Rate, review, undo it all, do it all over again. We are incorporating some new things into the feed. If you guys have noticed that the podcast is appearing on every single link basically on Blazers Edge, that's one of the few new looks and things that you'll see around. We'll have a few other things coming up. They'll feel or see here in the podcast, and we'll talk about that more as it comes. But other than that, I think we're good to go. So for Terrabon Biggs, I'm Danny Moring. We'll catch you guys next time, and bye.